Well, Shenmue the Animation has finally wrapped up. All 13 episodes have come and gone, and here are my final thoughts. This video piggybacks off the previous Shenmue the Animation review video I did where I talked about the first 8 episodes in general, and these are the final episodes in this video. Just briefly, if you have a passing interest in Shenmue, I definitely recommend you watching Shenmue the Animation. If you drink water or breathe air, I recommend you watch it. And spoiler alert, the rest of this video is going to contain some spoilers for the remainder of the episodes and for the games, so if you haven't had any exposure whatsoever to Shenmue 1 or 2, I highly recommend you skip this video or come back to it later. So now that that's out of the way, let's get into it. There was one little change. As I mentioned in the first video that I did, there were a few minor changes to the events that occur in the game to fit the animation better or to help with the pacing a little bit. So one of the things that they excluded from the animation was a scene in Shenmue 2 where Ryo's catching the falling red leaves, and I was really surprised that they left that out. I thought that was a pivotal moment in Shenmue 2 because it teaches Ryo patience and to clear his mind. And that was one of the main lessons that Shuing was trying to teach Ryo, is to clear his mind and be like a polished mirror. So that's really all I have to say about that. I was just really surprised they left that out. I was really expecting to see it, and surprised when I didn't. Another interesting change that I thought was actually a good change was the fact that they made Joy a more fleshed out character. She had a more important and meaningful backstory in the animation than she did in the game. Come to find out, her family was one of the more powerful and influential families in Hong Kong, and they were assassinated by the Yellowhead Gang. And I don't remember that being in the game. I don't remember that story being woven into Joy's backstory. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I missed some things in Shenmue 2, but I don't recall that at all. Another thing that was really funny was certain unimportant characters were given really funny or interesting moments, like the time the Yellowhead Gang member was chasing Joy and Wong on the motorcycle, and he ends up like hijacking some guy's bicycle off the side of the road. I thought that part was hilarious. I laughed out loud and I watched it a couple of times. And later on, he comes to find out his gang members had a car, and he's like, "You had a car?" After he like rode the bicycle all the way over there. That was so funny. I love that they perfectly preserved the bromance between Ryo and Ren. It's really fun to see them on screen at once and working together to accomplish the goal. I thought that was awesome. It's really fun to see. Now, I'm going to talk about episode 13, the final episode in the animation, and this episode just by itself, there's enough content and enough changes between the game and the animation to warrant its own video, but I'm not going to go over all those changes here in this video. I think Manny Magnus Garcia is going to do a much better job than I could dissecting every single change. It's going to be a long video, trust me. But it was a really good episode. It was really, really well done. There were some things they changed and some things they omitted, but I think overall they did a fantastic job of kind of closing out the series. By far, the most interesting thing they decided to include in episode 13 was the fact that Ryo and Lan Di actually fight on the top of the Yellowhead building. And this fight, this encounter, doesn't take place at the end of Shenmue 2 in the game, and what's even more interesting is they took the animation that takes place at the end of Shenmue 3, the game where Ryo is fighting Lan Di, and they translate it perfectly into the animation. So it's like the fight scene that takes place at the end of Shenmue 3 was like transported to the end of Shenmue 2, which is a little bit strange, but also kind of cool. Another vital point that I thought was present in the 13th episode of the animation was after the whole fight scene between Ryo and Lan Di, and before Ryo departs to Bailu Village, he stops by and talks to Shuing, and she asks him, "Oh, you're going after Lan Di?" And Ryo says, "No, I'm after the truth." And that's like hardcore. That's a big change, because even at the end of Shenmue 3, the game, he's not focused on the truth, he's focused on getting revenge still. And I'm sure, like in the animation at the end of it, he still wants to get revenge because Lan Di killed his father, but he also really wants to know the truth, and that's the primary goal for his mission. But yeah, it feels like this animation was written this way and kind of made these little changes along the way because they didn't know if they were ever going to be able to make a season 2, so they kind of made a mostly complete story with the first season. I mean, yeah, they can continue it, but there's a lot of stuff that happens there, and Ryo grows a lot. So it kind of works as its own thing. So if Shenmue the Animation only gets one season, it kind of works as a story because there's a beginning, middle, and an end. It doesn't conclude the overall story, but it completes a story arc. But yeah, despite all the small changes that they made to the events in the game for the animation, I still feel that it's a really, really great way to digest the story of Shenmue if you haven't played the games or just don't feel like you have the time to play the games. At the end of watching this animation, if you have never played the games, you'll understand the story, the characters, their meaning, and their purpose. And that just goes to show you that the animators have a huge respect for the source material of Shenmue the games. So they did a fantastic job on that. If they ever do make a season 2, then I'd be interested to see how they handle the pacing, because if they keep the same pacing that they have throughout the first season, they can complete the entirety of Shenmue 3 in like 4 or 5 episodes. And then what comes after that? Are they just gonna continue the story in animation form and forget the game? Or are we also gonna get a 4th game and a season 2, or neither? And if they do get a season 2, how are they gonna handle the fight scene between Ryo and Lan-Di, since they already took what occurs there and transported it to Shenmue 2? What are they gonna do for season 2? They're gonna have to change it up somehow. I don't know what they're gonna do. But yeah, about Shenmue 4, if it's a reality, if 110 Industries is going to fund and publish the development of Shenmue 4, I don't believe they're going to announce it until after they release their upcoming game Wanted Dead. They don't want to take any of the spotlight off of that game if they announce Shenmue 4 early. So if they're the ones publishing it, if it's going to happen, if the rumor that I talked about earlier is true, then I don't believe they're going to make any kind of announcement, anything formal, until after the launch of that game. So I'm going to be keeping my eyes on that. Okay, so that's it. That's the whole video. That's the whole review. I loved this series. I thought it was an excellent, excellent homage. It pays a lot of respect to the source material, and it does a good job of telling the story, and it does a really great job of including all the important scenes that happened in the games in the animation. So they did a fantastic job. Honestly, I would rate it a 9 out of 10. It's almost perfect. There's like little things that I might change along the way if I could go back and change it, but 9 out of 10. They did a great job. I love it. But anyways, thank you very much for watching up to this point. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you again really soon.